Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Storm Mushry, the Conservation Education Manager with the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. And today we're going to be having a roundtable discussion talking with some of our officers around the state of New Mexico. And we'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves, but I know we're going to have Casey Gert, we've got Kayla Brower and Matt Ordonez joining us today. And I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves this morning.
Good morning. My name is Kayla Brower. I'm the district officer for the El Rito Conjilon district, which is in northern New Mexico. I grew up in Idaho before moving to New Mexico to take this job. And I have been working for the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish for 2 years.
My name is Sergeant Casey Gert. I am in the Catron County Supervisory District, which is just like it sounds. I have most of Catron County, the Gila Forest. I come from Nebraska. Been here for coming up on 16 years. Time goes fast. And I guess I've been a game warden about the whole time. Just moved up from training officer to sergeant, but I've never left reserve since I got here.
My name is Matt Ordonez. I'm the corporal for the Raton district. So I kind of help cover Eagle Nest, Springer, Cimarron, and Raton. I grew up in Silver City, New Mexico, so I am a local native. Love the state. Don't plan on ever leaving. I've been with the department for approximately 7 years. I trained in Socorro. My first district was Raton. I was an officer for 3 years, then got promoted to the corporal, where I currently hold that same position.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves this morning. We'll go ahead. We'll jump right into it. We'll have a series of questions, and we'll be starting off. Casey Gert will kind of have the first go around here. But our first question is, or just explaining, what does a game warden do? What are some of your job duties as a conservation officer or a game warden?
Well, I guess as a game warden or a conservation officer, whichever one you prefer to call us, we're kind of like the coyotes. We're the generalists. We kind of do a little everything. Predominantly, law enforcement is what we do the most of. That's kind of what we're known for. But it stems from everything from helping out with hunter ed classes, putting them on, going to schools, giving talks for the kids about what biology and wildlife, habitats, all that kind of thing. We're kind of the go-between, especially as a sergeant. I'm the go-between my officers out in the field and then my captain that's clear down in Las Cruces. He's 240 miles away. So we're spread out all over the state, and so we kind of have a system set up there. Military, where everybody kind of falls in under another or above another, and we're just part of the chain, and it's important to get information from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Yeah, I mean, we'll sit there and help out with wherever needs help in our districts. If there's a wildlife survey or habitat project or something, if they just needed extra help and we're already here, a lot of times we get the call to give a hand for that, and we're always more than happy to do that.
Yeah, Casey did a really good job of kind of covering most of the bases. I think saying that we're the go-between is pretty spot on. We cover a lot of different job duties, and usually even if there isn't something, that's specifically in our job duties, but doesn't fall into someone else's, we're the first in line to take charge of that or take it on. So it could be anything from raccoons in somebody's chicken coop to spotlighters in the middle of the night. But when the phone rings, it's our job or our opportunity to figure out how to handle it. So I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is that we're problem solvers. A lot of times there's not really a textbook answer, not something you can flip to in a book and say, oh, this is how we handle it. But if you like thinking on your feet and not really always having the same thing come up. It's definitely not mundane. Never the same thing twice, it seems like. So there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of unknown, but best job in the world, I think.
I agree with Kayla and Casey on everything they said. You know, most people think of us as we just check hunters and people fishing, you know, but we definitely do a lot more, especially with OHV, barrel air talks, you know, depending on what area you're in, kind of depends what you're going to do a lot. But we're a jack of all trades, essentially. We help other law enforcement agencies, whether it's local, state, federal. The best part is, you know, it's flexible. The job is, so you can help other people that fits your schedule. It's not an 8 to 5. You can kind of work whatever times and you want, which is really the greatest part of the job, while still preserving the natural resources for future generations to enjoy.
Thank you guys for those answers. I know, you know, I'm still a commissioned officer, and when I was in district, I think what was most interesting to me, and I'd like to share a little bit of that. It just, no day was ever the same. One day I would be out doing angler patrol. The next day they may send me to an event outside of my supervisory district or my patrol area to go help on a public event. And then on the way home, I may stop and do a motorist assist. And just the complexities of the job, just, I loved it. You had to be a thinker. You had to think on your feet. You had to be comfortable working by yourself in a lot of the environment. And it helped me grow personally as a person. It really defined who I am today. And I have a lot more confidence that I did as a younger individual because of this job, because you know, you're out there, there's a problem, you have to solve it, you have to fix it. Maybe it's an investigation. Maybe it's trying to go in and assist, you know, fisheries management or wildlife management or doing a habitat project. Just everything that the job involved, it was so beneficial to me. And I do miss being in district. It was a fun time for me, and just the freedom and the flexibility of the job was great. So I'm pretty envious of you all. So thank you all. We'll jump into our next question. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off some of the degrees, because to be a game and fish officer, you do at a minimum have to have a bachelor's degree. And if someone was to go to the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish, go to our public website, there is a link, an enforcement link. And if you click on that, you can find careers in enforcement. And there's a lot of great information there, a lot of great information. And there you can find where all these degrees are listed. But our degrees are varied, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of read off the list. But there's biology, fishery science and management, wildlife science and management, animal science, forestry management, range science and management, ag science, environmental science, wildlife law enforcement, ecology, natural science and management, zoology, and criminal justice. Those were the degrees that I was able to find this morning. But if somebody was to come up to you and they were like, man, you know, what degree should I focus on? Because there's a wide range of different degrees there. What degree do you think somebody, you know, would benefit someone, or would any of those benefit them? So
yeah, you know, I get asked that question quite a bit. What degree should I get? And my basic answer is anything wildlife biology related. I personally have a degree in forestry, wildlife, and a minor in law enforcement. So I kind of have the both. What we're seeing a lot more is guys are applying with the criminal justice degree, which is great. You know, I'd say 80% of our work is law enforcement. So it's great to have that criminal justice background coming into this. But I would suggest that they get a degree in what they're interested in, whether it's zoology, criminal justice, ecology, dentology, whatever they're interested in, they can get that, because we do accept a wide variety of degrees.
Yeah, I would agree with Matt. Is I would stick with your strong point. I know in college I picked biology because that was what I was most interested in, and I knew if I wasn't that interested in it, I probably wasn't going to make it through it. So I went into biology and never looked back. I think I only had maybe one criminal justice class. As it turned out, it was a really good class. But biology would work good. Criminal justice, we have several officers that have criminal justice degrees, and they are outstanding game wardens. And even the ag science for the ranching, farming type of kids, agriculture and that kind of lifestyle that maybe they're interested in or grew up in, really does well with this type of job, because in that field, they're kind of like us. They're always doing something different every day, and they're working hard and they're working strange hours, and at a drop of a hat have to go. So that stuff all really plays into this job very well. So I would say any of those that we have listed up there, I would just pick the one that you're most interested in and do the best job you can at it.
It's great answers. I think picking something that suits you is the best way to go. Like Casey said, especially if you're someone like me who, if it didn't interest me in school, I probably wasn't going to get a good grade in that class, because found it hard to stay motivated or hard to focus in on that stuff if it wasn't something that I felt like I was good at, or if it wasn't something that made me want to pay attention. But I do think that having a degree in something biology based, even the rangeland management type of a degree, understanding the natural world is I think a huge benefit to this job. Understanding how plants and animals and the whole ecosystem works is going to only benefit you as a game warden. But if that's not your cup of tea, and you like criminal justice more, or you feel like that's something that intrigues you more, then go that route. Get your bachelor's and in whatever would apply, and then go from there. But continue to, I guess I would encourage folks to kind of round yourself out. Maybe you're not that interested in some of the other stuff, or the biology side of things, or science isn't really your cup of tea. It's still important to the job. And if there are certain aspects of it that you can add to that criminal justice degree, it's only going to make you a better candidate in the long run. So
thank you, Kayla, Casey, and Matt. Those are very good answers. It's one of those I kind of liked where Kayla was touching off that, or kind of hinting at, like if somebody did have the criminal justice degree, I think that if they spend a lot of time in the outdoors, and they do possibly a lot of hunting and fishing, and try to learn wildlife ID and certain aspects on their own, that could definitely be advantageous and help out those individuals that maybe aren't in a wildlife or a fisheries type program. So I think that'll help augment that. Well, we'll go into our next question here. Do you think there are any life skills that if somebody was to come up to you and they're like, is there anything that you do with your job that I'm not necessarily going to learn in, if it was a mid-school kid that's going to be transitioning into high school, or high schooler going into college, or maybe we've got college students already. Is there anything that they can work on today that they maybe might not necessarily learn in school that would help them with the job?
Well, I'll start it off, Storm. I think one thing I wished I would have done in high school was get on the debate team, just to learn to get up in front of people and to speak in front of people, because so much of this job is communication. You don't really get that in college and take your speech classes. But anything like that, where you're getting up and you're trying to communicate your point, because especially in the law enforcement, it can make or break you. You can talk somebody down and de-escalate a bad situation. Or even in many of our landowner programs that we have for E+ and A+ and that kind of thing, some of those discussions can be confusing. So having a little more experience in speaking to the public, or just at a coffee table, having a cup of coffee with the rancher and his wife at their house, the more experience you can get with talking with folks, I think that would be a great thing that I wished I would have done more of coming into this. Some of the other things, and Matt maybe can speak to this too. When he was training in Socorro, they came up, and I kind of like on my recruits, I just spend a day and we just do country kid things. I'm 100 miles from a Walmart. I'm out in the middle of it. Folks haven't grown up that way, and they may not have some of the same experiences. So I want to know if they've ever drove their truck and put it in 4-wheel drive and gone into some place they might get stuck. I want to know, can they back up a trailer? I want to know, do they know how to weld, like you were talking about earlier? If we have something that breaks down out in the middle of nowhere and you're 5 hours away from the nearest help, are you going to be able to think outside the box and patch something together so you can get yourself out of a jackpot? And then, I grew up riding horses and working with large animals. My father was a large animal veterinarian. So having things like that around, where I kind of knew how to handle myself around, cattle and horses that maybe didn't want to be around somebody. When we're helping with the biologists with our collar and elk, for instance, like we're doing right now, all that is the same techniques that we're using. So, kind of, if you're looking at a kid, or maybe right out of high school and college, maybe go ask a rancher if they need help branding calves when it's that time of year, and flank some calves and get some of that muscle memory down to how to handle a large animal, because it doesn't matter if it's a mule deer or an elk or somebody's calf on the ground. The techniques are all the same. That kind of stuff, you just know where to be and where not to be, more importantly, are all kind of things that they don't teach you in college. They don't teach you in high school either. You kind of have to go out and search for some of that stuff and find those things that might make you a more rounded person. If you're more into the fisheries or stuff like that, then maybe that's where you need to start looking and hang around the folks that are doing what you want to do. You'll start picking up on little things. So that would be kind of some of the things I would suggest to do.
All really good answers. And I completely agree with Casey. Just put yourself in situations where maybe you haven't done that before, or somebody who has a ranch, you've never backed a trailer. Just ask, if they'd be willing to show you how to do it or let you try it. I know I have a background in fisheries resources, and growing up in Idaho, my parents didn't have a boat or a trailer. We didn't have large farm animals that we moved around, so we didn't have a trailer. But when I started working in fisheries, and every day we had to put the boat in the water, all the guys I worked with were great at backing trailers, but I had never done it. And I'm sure it was pretty frustrating for them at first to watch me try after try and get the boat down the boat ramp. But after a couple summers of doing that, you get the hang of it and can put that on a resume. So if there are little things that you don't know how it works, or you don't know how to do that, find somebody who does and have them explain it to you. Be inquisitive and seek out those extra talents, because like Casey said, they're probably not going to teach you in high school. And if you don't have someone else, around to kind of teach you how to do it, it could be pretty hard to learn on your own. But a few of the other things that I think come to mind, especially these days, is the ability to read a map. And I'm not talking about on the computer or Google Maps or whatever. Get a paper map out and look at it. Educate yourself on contour lines and the north and south, like orienting yourself on it, north and south, east and west. When your phone dies or your GPS isn't working out in the middle of nowhere and all you have is that paper map, you're gonna be thankful that you spent some time figuring out where things are at and how to read that thing. Because I'm sure everyone's been in a situation where technology hasn't stood up to battery life or whatever it may be. And if you don't have those skills to kind of get yourself out of a pickle at some point or another, being able to change a tire, knowing how to operate a jack, just simple little things that maybe no one's taught you. But if you ask the right questions or ask the right people, there are tons of people out there who I'm sure would be willing to share that knowledge and give you the hands-on experience to put it on a resume so you know when you need it.
Great answers. Without adding too much more, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, especially in high school. Take welding, take woodworking, whatever else you can take it. We're all going to fail at these things or be bad at them the first time. But the more we practice, the better we get, as in life. So we just got to keep practicing and keep expanding our knowledge. I tend to say I learn something new every day, whether it's something small or something big. I learn something new, and that helps me grow to become a better officer down the road. I fix a bunch of bear traps, so I learned how to weld. It's just one of those things no one ever taught me how to do, and I learned it by myself. So just being a well-rounded person, like MacGyver, know a little bit of everything, and I think you'll do pretty well.
There's a lot of great insight there, and I appreciate all those answers. And I know people watching this video are going to enjoy that as well. As we start to wind down our recording for today, I just wanted to ask if there's any words of encouragement that you would like to give, or, you would give somebody that's wanting to get into this profession, or, try to hire on with a game and fish agency. Is there anything that you would like to give them today?
Yeah, my biggest words of encouragement would just be to stay in school. That's the biggest thing people can't overcome. 4 years is a long commitment to getting a bachelor's degree, but in the long run, I look back at it now and it was totally worth it. All those struggles and hardships and studying, late night hours studying, it's all worth it in the end. So definitely stay in school. We're always hiring people, so don't think you won't be hired. Just apply, because we're always hiring. And keep going. I mean, life's tough, everything's tough, but there's an end to where everything will come out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I would say have a game plan. The sooner the better. Have something that you're shooting for, so you know kind of what kind of work you need to put forth, and kind of give yourself a timeline. I would say go to the cheapest school that you can go to as far as college goes. They're all good. Don't put yourself in the hole with student loans. Get yourself set up on a good foundation from when you come out. Go get yourself some real world experience. Like Matt said, go get your hands dirty. That could be anything. You can get onto internships, co-ops, even just ride-alongs. Do some ride-alongs with some folks. Find out if that's what you want. You might think this is the job that you're interested in. Go do a ride-along. That's probably the quickest, easiest way to do it. You might find out, man, maybe I don't want to be a game warden, but maybe I want to get more into the biology side of things. That might have a real-world impact on how you're spending, your finite money that you got to go to school, send you down the right path. Or you might find out, man, this is exactly what I wanted. And now you're even more excited about it. You're going to do a little better in school because now you got a goal. You know what you're going to get after. Another thing to do is if you got questions about it, look some folks up. Buy them a cup of coffee and ask them some questions. You know, have a list of some things that you're interested about, have questions about, and ask them. They'll tell you. I mean, I got a young kid that's in college right now, and he's going to do that. We're going to meet in 2 days, and he wanted to ask me a bunch of questions about hiring on with the department. So I'll tell him everything that he wants to know, or that I can tell him anyway. Volunteer where you can. And it could be anything. But anything that interests you, volunteer, because that kind of stuff can open your eyes to a whole other world. And especially if you want to come on with the game and fish department, if you don't already hunt, fish, or trap, I would suggest trying to get into it. There's all sorts of resources nowadays. Go out and give it a try. Just that real world of experience of knowing how the game is played. Especially as law enforcement officers, when someone's trying to play a game on you and tell you a lie, and you can catch them on something because they're tripping it up, you know better because you were just out there on that same hillside and things didn't look that way. That's all kind of stuff that falls back. You can put it in your back pocket and use it to your advantage. It's a great job. There's a lot of flexibility, which I think is one of the things that most everybody likes about this job. There's some good days and some bad days, just like every job. So far, the good days have way outnumbered the bad days. There's some days that you think, man, I can't believe I get paid to do this. And there's other days where you're like, well, it's just a rough day. We'll get through it. It'll be a better day tomorrow. So those are some of the things that I could think of.
Yeah, I really like Casey's advice that, just set some goals for yourself. If this is something that you can see yourself doing and, you do the homework and maybe do the ride along or ask those questions of an officer or someone that's involved with the department. And the more research you do or the more questions you ask, it really seems like it's what you want. Set the bar high. And like Casey said, you don't have to break the bank to go to school. Find what works for you and your family. And there are tons of scholarship opportunities out there. If you're, inquisitive enough and can find some people that maybe can help you apply for those scholarships or for those opportunities. I was lucky to get most of my school paid for on a basketball scholarship. So if you're an athlete, don't leave any rock unturned. There are tons of opportunities out there for you to get some of your schooling paid for, or if not all of it paid for. So just because college seems like a giant dollar sign to you or your family doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be that way. And yeah, just ask lots of questions, never stop learning. Always be ready to branch out and try something new.
A lot of great advice. And I think one thing that I would add real quick, just, I was trying to think on the question, and the biggest thing I tried to do to prepare, once I got through school, I knew, I wanted to be a game and fish officer. I put in the time as far as getting my physical fitness up to par, because, when you do hire on, you have to pass the physical, which would involve, X amount of push-ups and setups and running the 1.5 miles, and I believe it was a 300-yard sprint. So knowing what those minimums are, and we do have those on our website. If you go to careers in enforcement, there's a lot of great information there, but just spend the time preparing for all of that, because when you do have your degree in hand, when you put in, just make sure that you can pass those physicals. So, but with that, I just want to thank our presenters today. Hopefully we're able to kind of give some of you an idea of what to expect, what a game warden does, what degrees are required, kind of some things you can work on if you're interested in this career. So with that, I want to say goodbye, and we'll see you all on the next video.